The silent signal. Dr. Sarah Chen stood motionless in front of the quantum array's holographic display, her coffee growing cold in her forgotten mug. The signal hadn't changed in 3 days, a perfect, rhythmic pulse that defied every known law of quantum mechanics. "It's still there," she announced to the nearly empty control room of the Quantum Research Station Hindal, orbiting high above Europa. Her voice carried a mix of exhaustion and wonder that made her colleague, Dr. Marcus Rivera, look up from his own console. "Impossible," he muttered, rolling his chair across to her station. "Quantum signals don't maintain coherence across interstellar distances. They can't." Yet there it was, a signal so precise it made their most advanced quantum computers look like children's toys. Sarah pulled up the analysis graphs, their crisp lines reflecting off her dark eyes. "Whatever this is, it's artificial. No natural phenomenon could maintain this level of quantum entanglement." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Humanity had spent centuries searching for signs of intelligent life, and now, on a routine quantum communications experiment, they'd found something that shouldn't exist. Marcus ran another diagnostic, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The source. It's coming from the Oort cloud, right at the edge of our solar system." Sarah was already reaching for the emergency protocols tablet. "We need to contact Earth Command. Now." Within hours, the station's small crew gathered in the main conference room as they connected to the United Earth Council's emergency session. The council members' holograms flickered to life around the table, their faces a mix of skepticism and concern. "Dr. Chen," Council President Rodriguez began, "you're certain this isn't an equipment malfunction?" Sarah stood, projecting the signal data into the center of the room. "The signal maintains perfect quantum coherence across thousands of astronomical units. We can't even theoretically achieve that with our best technology. Someone out there has mastered quantum mechanics at a level we can barely comprehend. And you believe this signal is some kind of beacon?" Another council member asked. "More like a lighthouse," Marcus interjected. "It's as if someone left a quantum torch burning, knowing that only a civilization advanced enough to detect quantum signals would find it." The council chambers erupted in heated discussion until Rodriguez raised his hand for silence. "What are you proposing, Dr. Chen?" Sarah took a deep breath. "We've already calculated the exact coordinates. Give us the exploration vessel Magellan. Let us find out what's waiting for us out there." The debate lasted for hours. The risk of sending one of humanity's most advanced ships to investigate an unknown signal was substantial, but the potential rewards, the chance to discover technology that could revolutionize human civilization. 2 weeks later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Magellan as it prepared to depart from Europa Station. The ship's crew of 50 represented the best minds Earth had to offer: quantum physicists, synorchaeologists, and veteran space explorers. Captain Diana Walsh, a veteran of the Europa-Mars run, studied the mission briefing one final time. "Last chance to back out, Dr. Chen. Once we're past Neptune's orbit, we're on our own." Sarah watched as the final supply drones docked with the ship. "Whatever's out there, Captain, it rewrites everything we know about quantum mechanics. We have to know." The Magellan's engines hummed to life, pushing the sleek vessel away from the safety of Europa Station. As they accelerated toward the outer solar system, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn into something far bigger than a simple scientific discovery. 6 weeks into their journey, they'd picked up the first visual confirmation. Marcus burst onto the bridge, his tablet streaming live data. "We've got it. Telescopes are picking up something massive at the signal's coordinates." The main view screen filled with a telescopic image that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. There, floating in the vast darkness of the Oort cloud, was a structure that dwarfed their ship. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, geometric patterns shifting across its hull in impossible ways. "That's no ship," Captain Walsh whispered. "That's a station. A quantum computing station bigger than anything humanity has ever built." Sarah stared at the massive structure, her mind racing with possibilities. No, it's more than that. Look at those patterns. They're quantum interference waves made visible. Whatever this is, it's operating on principles we've only dreamed about. As the Magellan drew closer, the quantum signal grew stronger. Its perfect rhythm now detectable even by their standard sensors. The station's true scale became apparent. It was nearly the size of Earth's moon, yet it moved through space with impossible grace. Multiple entry points detected, the sensor officer reported. And there's a power signature. Minimal, but it's there. This thing isn't dead. Sarah felt her heart racing as she studied the preliminary scans. The quantum coherence patterns, they're not random. They're an invitation. Captain Walsh turned to her bridge crew, then back to Sarah. An invitation to what, Doctor? Before Sarah could answer, the quantum signal changed for the first time since its discovery. The perfect rhythm shifted, forming patterns that their computers began translating into basic mathematical sequences. It's testing us, Sarah realized, quickly typing commands into her console. Sending responses now. Prime numbers, Fibonacci sequence, basic quantum equations. The station's response was immediate. Massive doors began to open along its hull, revealing docking bays large enough to hold their ship many times over. The quantum signal pulsed once more, then resolved into a clear message in basic mathematical symbols. Welcome, quantum-capable species. You have found the archive. Sarah looked at Captain Walsh, both women understanding the weight of this moment. They had just discovered something that would change humanity forever. The only question was, were they ready for what waited inside? Take us in, Walsh ordered, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Slow approach to the nearest docking bay. Let's find out what this archive has been waiting to show us. As the Magellan glided toward the massive structure, Sarah couldn't help but wonder. Of all the species in the galaxy, why had humanity been the ones to find this? And more importantly, what price would come with the knowledge it contained? The answers waited inside, in the quantum halls of a structure that predated human civilization itself. Their journey of discovery was just beginning. The learning curve. The Magellan's docking clamps engaged with a soft thud that echoed through the ship's hull. Through the bridge windows, the archive's crystalline walls towered above them, their iridescent surfaces dancing with quantum interference patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. Atmospheric analysis complete, Lieutenant Park announced from his station. The docking bay is pressurized. Atmosphere is a perfect match for Earth standard, almost too perfect. Sarah Chen frowned at the readings. That's impossible. This station must be thousands of years old at least. Any atmosphere should have degraded, unless it's being actively maintained, Marcus suggested, already suiting up in his EVA gear. They weren't taking chances, despite the welcoming atmosphere. Captain Walsh gathered the initial exploration team. Sarah, Marcus, 2 security officers, and their xenoarchaeologist, Dr. Yuki Tanaka. Remember, we're making first contact with technology far beyond our understanding. Every step is to be documented and cleared before proceeding. They crossed the docking bay in their suits, boots magnetized against the strange, shifting surface beneath them. As they approached the main entrance, geometric patterns began flowing across the walls, converging on a circular door that seemed to phase in and out of reality. The quantum effects aren't just for show, Sarah realized, scanning the patterns with her tablet. This entire structure exists partially in quantum superposition. It's processing information through its very architecture. Before anyone could respond, a shimmer appeared before them, coalescing into a holographic interface that put their best displays to shame. Mathematical symbols danced in the air, forming complex equations. It's another test, Marcus said, already working on his tablet. But these aren't just regular quantum mechanics. These are problems we haven't solved yet. Sarah stepped forward, her mind racing. No, look at the structure of the equations. They're not asking us for solutions. They're asking us to prove we understand the questions. For the next hour, the team worked to decode the mathematical challenge. When they finally submitted their response, not with answers, but with additional questions that showed their grasp of quantum theory, the door phased into solid reality and opened with a soft hum. Inside, they found corridors that seemed to stretch forever, their walls alive with flowing data and quantum interference patterns. But they'd barely taken 10 steps when another hologram appeared, this one far more concerning. A creature of pure energy stood before them, its form vaguely humanoid but constantly shifting. When it spoke, its words were translated directly into their minds. Warning: unregistered quantum-capable species detected. Your civilization has not been cleared for archive access. Please submit credentials for evaluation by the Galactic Council of Elder Races. Captain Walsh stepped forward. We're representatives of humanity. From Earth. We followed your quantum beacon. The hologram flickered. Earth is not registered in the Galactic database. Your species' quantum technological level is rated as primitive. Archive access denied. Primitive. Marcus bristled. We detected your quantum signal across interstellar distances, using borrowed theories and replicated technology. The hologram responded. Your understanding is superficial. True quantum mastery requires. Sarah interrupted, her mind racing. Wait, you're an AI, aren't you? Operating on quantum principles. The hologram paused, its form stabilizing slightly. Correct. I am the Archive's guardian intelligence. Sarah smiled behind her helmet. Then you can verify our understanding directly. Instead of checking our credentials, check our capability to learn. The Guardian seemed to consider this unprecedented request. The Archive exists to preserve knowledge, not to teach. Yet you left a beacon. Sarah pressed. You wanted to be found. Why find new civilizations if not to share knowledge? The quantum patterns around them swirled faster, as if reflecting the Guardian's processing. Finally, it spoke again. Proposal accepted. You will be given one standard rotation to demonstrate your species' learning capability. But be warned, the Archive's knowledge is dangerous if misunderstood. The hologram vanished, leaving them standing in a corridor that now displayed directional indicators. Captain Walsh turned to Sarah. You just committed us to a test we know nothing about. Care to explain your thinking? Sarah was already scanning the quantum patterns in the walls, her expression bright with excitement. They expect us to learn like they do, downloading information directly through quantum interfaces. But that's not how humans work. We learn by questioning, by breaking problems down, by making mistakes and fixing them. And you think that's an advantage? Dr. Tanaka asked, studying the alien script that had begun appearing on the walls. I think it's our only chance, Sarah replied. They see us as primitive because we don't have their technology. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's how we think. The team pressed deeper into the archive, following the Guardian's guidance to what appeared to be a central learning hub. The chamber they entered was vast, its walls covered in interactive displays showing everything from basic particle physics to concepts that made their best theorists look like kindergartners. Where do we even start? Marcus wondered aloud, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. Sarah was already connecting her tablet to one of the interfaces, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. We start with questions. The Guardian wants to see if we can learn. Let's show it how humans learn. For the next several hours, the team worked in ways that would have baffled the Archive's creators. Instead of attempting to directly interface with the quantum systems, they broke problems down into smaller pieces. They drew diagrams on their tablets, argued over interpretations, and tested theories with small experiments. The Guardian watched silently as they worked, its holographic form appearing periodically to observe their progress. What it saw defied its expectations. These humans weren't simply absorbing information. They were challenging it, questioning assumptions that had stood unchallenged for millennia. This is inefficient, it finally stated, appearing in their midst. Why do you persist in manual calculations when the quantum interface could provide answers directly? Because we don't want answers, Sarah replied, not looking up from her work. We want understanding. Look at this. Your quantum encryption protocols are based on perfect entanglement. But we found ways to work with imperfect entanglement, creating systems that are more flexible, more adaptable. The Guardian processed this, its form shifting rapidly. Imperfection as an advantage. This contradicts established principles. Marcus joined in, pulling up their latest calculations. That's how human science works. We don't just accept principles, we push them to their limits, find their breaking points, then build something new from what we learn. The quantum patterns throughout the chamber began pulsing with increased intensity. The Guardian's form stabilized, showing what might have been interest. Your learning methodology is unique, continues to demonstrate capacity for novel approaches. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. They were making progress, but the real test was still to come. As if reading her thoughts, the Guardian's next words sent a chill through the team. Primary evaluation will commence. Prepare yourselves for direct quantum interface challenge. Warning: failure may result in neural disruption. Captain Walsh stepped forward. What exactly does neural disruption mean? The Guardian's response was characteristically direct. In biological terms, death. The Archive's knowledge cannot be accessed without risk. Are you prepared to continue? The team looked at each other, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. Everything they dreamed of learning was within reach, but the price of failure was ultimate. Sarah took a deep breath, then faced the Guardian. We're ready, but we'll do this the human way. The Guardian's form flickered what might have been surprise. There is only one way to interface with quantum systems of this complexity. Sarah smiled. That's where you're wrong. Humanity's greatest discoveries have come from finding new ways to do the impossible. Show us your test, and we'll show you ours. As the chamber began to reconfigure itself around them, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or possibly humanity's greatest breakthrough. Either way, there was no turning back now. The real test was about to begin. Breaking protocol. The Archive's learning chamber transformed around them, quantum patterns coalescing into complex three-dimensional structures that filled the vast space. The Guardian's holographic form expanded, becoming one with the swirling data streams that surrounded the team. Initiating quantum interface challenge, the Guardian announced, its voice resonating from all directions. Your objective: successfully process and navigate a 13-dimensional quantum matrix. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Their most advanced quantum computers could barely handle 5 dimensions. 13 was theoretically impossible with human technology. Direct neural interface available. The Guardian continued, materializing a series of crystalline headsets. This is the standard method for all quantum-capable species. Captain Walsh studied the devices warily. And these would connect our minds directly to your quantum systems. Correct. Though for a species at your development level, survival probability is approximately 12.3%. Not happening, Sarah declared, already pulling equipment from her pack. Marcus, help me set up our quantum resonance scanners. Dr. Tanaka, we need those pattern recognition algorithms you developed for xenorchaeology. The Guardian's form flickered with what might have been confusion. You cannot possibly hope to process 13-dimensional space without direct neural connection. Watch us, Sarah replied, connecting her tablet to their portable quantum sensor array. Humans have been solving impossible problems since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what they were. Over the next hour, they transformed their corner of the chamber into an improvised research station. Instead of attempting to process the quantum matrix directly, they broke it down into layers they could understand, using their limited technology in ways its creators had never intended. Look at this, Marcus called out, pointing to his display. The matrix isn't random. There are patterns, like harmonics in music. Sarah's eyes lit up. That's it. We don't need to process all 13 dimensions at once. We just need to understand how they relate to each other. She turned to the Guardian. Can you display the matrix as a time sequence? The quantum patterns shifted, now flowing like a river of light through the chamber. The teen watched in fascination as dimensions folded and unfolded in complex rhythms. It's like a dance, Dr. Tanaka murmured, her pattern recognition software highlighting recurring sequences. Each dimension moves in relation to the others, following specific rules. Sarah was already modifying their sensors, recalibrating them to track the dimensional shifts. We can't process 13 dimensions simultaneously, but we can follow their movements, predict their patterns. It's not about raw processing power. It's about understanding the underlying structure. The Guardian observed silently as the humans worked, their primitive tools and innovative methods defying its ancient protocols. Hours passed as they mapped the quantum dance, breaking down impossibly complex patterns into manageable pieces. There, Sarah exclaimed suddenly, pointing to a sequence in their combined data. The dimensions aren't just moving, they're communicating. This isn't just a test of processing power, it's a test of comprehension. Marcus studied the pattern she'd identified, like a language written in quantum states, but why make it so complex if? He was cut off by a sudden surge of energy through the chamber. The quantum matrix began shifting faster, its patterns becoming increasingly chaotic. Warning, the Guardian announced. External quantum intrusion detected. Archive security protocols engaging. Captain Walsh's hand went to her sidearm instinctively. External intrusion. You mean someone else is trying to access the archive? Correct. Hostile quantum signatures detected. They are attempting to breach the archive's defenses using unusual methods. Sarah's tablet flashed with alerts as new data poured in. These patterns, they're trying to force their way through the quantum barriers, but that's impossible unless. Her eyes widened. Unless they've been watching us, learning how we break down complex systems. The Guardian's form crackled with energy. Archive security requires immediate response. Neural interface is the only way to counter this intrusion. No, Sarah said firmly, her mind racing. Your security protocols are failing because they expect attacks from quantum-capable species. These intruders are using our methods, breaking down your defenses the same way we broke down the Matrix. Which means, Marcus added, catching her train of thought, we might be the only ones who can stop them. The chamber shuddered as another attack hit the archive's quantum barriers. The Guardian's form flickered dangerously. Archive protocols do not allow for unauthorized species to access defense systems. Your protocols aren't working, Sarah shouted, already reconfiguring their equipment. Sometimes you need to break protocol to solve an impossible problem. That's what humans do best. Captain Walsh stepped forward. What are you suggesting, Doctor? We use our quantum sensors in reverse. Instead of breaking down their attack patterns, we create our own, simple, unpredictable patterns that their quantum systems won't expect. Like fighting a supercomputer with a calculator. The Guardian processed this for a moment that felt like eternity. Probability of success. Unknown. No precedent exists for this approach. Welcome to humanity's specialty, Sarah replied, connecting their devices to the archive systems, making the impossible possible. As the hostile intrusion grew stronger, the team worked frantically to implement their plan. Instead of trying to match the attacker's quantum complexity, they created simple, asymmetric patterns that exploited the gaps between dimensions. Think of it like guerrilla warfare, Marcus explained to the Guardian as they worked. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective, especially when your enemy expects complexity. The chamber filled with clashing quantum patterns as their improvised defense met the intruder's attack. The Guardian watched in fascination as the humans' primitive but innovative approach began to push back the intrusion. Remarkable, it observed. You are using quantum uncertainty itself as a weapon. The attackers cannot predict what they cannot understand. Sarah managed a tight smile as she fine-tuned their counter patterns. That's the advantage of being primitive, Sometimes not knowing the right way to do something leads to finding a better way. The hostile quantum signatures began to falter, their complex attacks breaking apart against the humans' unpredictable defenses. Within minutes, the intrusion was repelled, leaving the archive's quantum space eerily quiet. The Guardian's form stabilized, its energy patterns suggesting deep processing. You have defended the archive using methods that defy all established protocols. This requires significant revaluation of humanity's status. Does this mean we passed your test? Captain Walsh asked, holstering her weapon. The test you were given is now irrelevant. You have demonstrated something far more valuable than the ability to process quantum information. The Guardian's form shifted, taking on a more distinct shape. You have shown the capacity to innovate beyond established parameters, to find solutions where none should exist. Sarah began collecting their equipment, her hands shaking slightly from exhaustion. So what happens now? Now, the Guardian replied, we must prepare. The attack you repelled was merely a probe. Others will have noticed humanity's presence here. The archive has existed in secrecy for millennia, but that secrecy may soon end. The team exchanged worried glances as the implications sank in. They had come seeking knowledge, but they might have stumbled into something far bigger. A conflict that could determine not just humanity's future, but the fate of the archive itself. The Guardian's next words confirmed their fears. The real test is about to begin. Are you prepared to defend knowledge that could reshape the galaxy? Sarah looked at her teammates, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. We didn't come this far to back down now. Whatever's coming, we'll face it the human way. The human way, the Guardian echoed, its tone suggesting both curiosity and anticipation. Perhaps that is exactly what the archive has been waiting for. Impossible solutions. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through the archive's communication system. 7 vessels just appeared at the edge of the Oort cloud. Their energy readings are off the charts. Sarah and her team raced back through the archive's crystalline corridors toward the central command chamber they'd established. The Guardian's holographic form kept pace with them, its energy patterns suggesting agitation. The Quantum Dominion has arrived, it announced. They are collectors. They seek advanced technology by any means necessary. Captain Walsh's voice was grim. Collectors? You mean pirates. Their preferred term is technology liberators. They believe advanced knowledge should belong to those powerful enough to take it. The team reached the command chamber, where holographic displays showed the approaching vessels. Their designs were bizarre. Ships that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, their quantum drives bending space in ways that made Sarah's head hurt to observe. The Magellan can't stand against those ships, Marcus said, studying the readings. Their weapons operate on quantum principles we barely understand. Then we don't fight them conventionally, Sarah replied, already connecting their makeshift interface to the archive's systems. Guardian, you said the archive has defenses. Automated quantum defense systems, yes, but they require neural interface capability to operate the way they were designed to. Sarah interrupted. But what if we try something different? Something they won't expect. The Guardian's form flickered with interest. Explain. Sarah pulled up the data from their earlier defense against the quantum intrusion. We proved that sometimes simpler is better. Instead of trying to match their quantum technology, we use the archive's systems our way. That's impossible, the Guardian started, but Marcus cut in. Impossible is our specialty, he said, already helping Sarah modify their equipment. Dr. Tanaka, remember how we mapped the quantum matrix like a dance? What if we apply that same principle to the defense systems? The xenorchaeologist's eyes lit up. Instead of processing quantum states directly, we choreograph them. Like conducting an orchestra instead of playing every instrument ourselves. The Guardian observed as the humans transformed their primitive equipment into an improvised quantum defense station. Your approach is unorthodox. The Archive's defenses were designed for direct neural control by quantum-capable species. Then they were designed with a serious weakness, Sarah replied, not looking up from her work. Any system that can only be used one way is inherently vulnerable. Humans learned that lesson centuries ago. The chamber's displays suddenly flared with warning signals. The quantum Dominion ships had entered weapons range, their combined energy signatures creating interference patterns that made the archive's walls shimmer. "Receiving transmission," Lieutenant Park announced. A new hologram appeared in the chamber, a being composed of shifting quantum states, its form suggesting arrogance and disdain. Primitive species detected in control of precursor technology. This violation of natural order will be corrected. Surrender the archive or be eliminated. Captain Walsh stepped forward. This is Captain Diana Walsh of the Earth ship Magellan. The archive is under our protection. The quantum being's form rippled with what might have been laughter. Protection. You can barely comprehend the technology you've stumbled upon. Our scans show your neural capability is insufficient for proper quantum interface. You are children playing with relics of the gods. Sarah smiled as she made the final connections to their modified defense system. You know what children are good at: breaking the rules. She activated their interface, and the archive's quantum defense systems came alive, but not in the way they were designed to operate. Instead of direct neural control, the humans conducted the quantum energies like a symphony, using their understanding of patterns and relationships to guide rather than control. The Guardian's form expanded with surprise as the defense systems responded. This is unexpected. You are using the quantum fields as abstract frameworks rather than direct instruments. Exactly, Marcus explained, adjusting their quantum resonance patterns. We can't process 13-dimensional space, but we can understand how dimensions relate to each other. It's like learning to swim without understanding fluid dynamics. The quantum Dominion ships launched their first attack, beams of concentrated quantum energy designed to disrupt the archive's structural integrity. But instead of meeting them with matching force, the human-guided defenses responded with seemingly random patterns that scattered and redirected the energy. Impossible. The quantum being sputtered. Your primitive technology cannot possibly. That's your problem. Sarah interrupted, her fingers dancing across their makeshift controls. You think technology equals capability. Humanity learned long ago that the most powerful tool is the mind that uses it. The Archive's defenses, guided by human intuition and creativity, began to push back against the attackers. Where the quantum Dominion expected precise, predictable responses, they found chaos and innovation. Their complex quantum weapons struggled against defense patterns that followed no logical rules they could decode. Fascinating, the Guardian observed. You are using quantum uncertainty itself as a shield, creating patterns too random for their targeting systems to lock onto. Sometimes the best defense is unpredictability, Captain Walsh said, watching as another attack dissipated harmlessly against their quantum screen. Something humanity learned through millennia of warfare. The quantum being's form became increasingly unstable as attack after attack failed. This defies all established protocols. You cannot defend quantum technology with primitive methods. Watch us, Sarah replied, initiating a sequence they'd adapted from their earlier matrix navigation. The Archive's quantum fields responded, creating interference patterns that began to disrupt the Dominion ship's own quantum drives. Their ships operate on perfect quantum coherence, she explained to the Guardian. But we've learned how to work with imperfect systems. Sometimes a flaw can be an advantage. The quantum Dominion ships began to retreat, their perfect formation breaking apart as their quantum systems struggled against the humans' unconventional defense patterns. The quantum being's hologram flickered violently. This is not over, it declared. The Archive's knowledge belongs to those who can truly understand it. No, Sarah countered, it belongs to those who can learn from it. There's a difference. As the hostile ships disappeared into quantum space, the Guardian's form stabilized into something new, a pattern that seemed to combine order and chaos in equal measure. You have defended the archive using methods that should not work, it said. Yet they did not merely succeed. They revealed weaknesses in quantum technology that we never considered. Perhaps this is why the archive's creators left it to be found. What do you mean? Dr. Tanaka asked. The archive contains knowledge that could reshape the galaxy. But knowledge without wisdom, without new perspectives, becomes stagnant. You have demonstrated that there is value in what you call primitive methods, in finding new ways to solve old problems. Sarah began shutting down their makeshift defense system, her mind racing with implications. Are you saying the archive wasn't just meant to preserve knowledge? It was meant to evolve. The Guardian confirmed. To find species who could not merely use its knowledge, but transform it. And now, against all probability, it has found humanity. Captain Walsh stepped forward. So what happens now? The Guardian's form shifted again, patterns suggesting both certainty and anticipation. Now we prepare. The quantum dominion will return, and they will not be alone. Other species will learn of your success here. Some will seek to learn from you. Others will seek to destroy you. The archive's knowledge is no longer dormant. It is evolving, and evolution always brings change. Sarah looked at her team, seeing the same mix of excitement and determination in their eyes. They had come seeking knowledge and found themselves on the front lines of a galactic revolution, one where humanity's greatest weakness might prove to be its greatest strength. Well, she said, already planning modifications to their quantum interface, we better get to work. We've got a lot to learn, and even more to teach. Legacy of innovation. 3 months after the Quantum Dominion's retreat, the space around the archive hummed with activity. Ships from 24 species hung in careful formation, their designs ranging from crystalline structures to clouds of quantum probability. At the center of it all, the Earth ship Magellan looked almost primitive in comparison, yet it was to this vessel that all attention was focused. Inside the archive's grand assembly chamber, Sarah Chen stood before representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The Guardian's holographic form hovered beside her, its patterns reflecting a mix of pride and anticipation. Impossible, the crystalline collective's ambassador chimed, its crystalline form resonating with disbelief. You cannot expect us to believe that primitive neural architecture could improve upon quantum computing principles that have stood for millennia. Sarah smiled, remembering similar protests from 3 months ago. We don't expect you to believe it. We'll show you. She nodded to Marcus, who activated their latest innovation. The chamber's quantum field filled with a new kind of interface, one that combined the precision of quantum computing with the adaptability of human thought. It was messy, imperfect, and more effective than anything the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. We call it hybrid quantum integration, Sarah explained. Instead of forcing minds to adapt to quantum systems, we adapted quantum systems to work with organic neural patterns. The synthetic consciousness representative's avatar flickered with calculations. Our analysis shows a 47% reduction in processing efficiency compared to standard quantum interfaces. True, Marcus admitted, but watch what happens when we introduce complex, real-world problems. Dr. Tanaka initiated their demonstration program. The chamber filled with a simulation of a dying star system, its quantum states shifting chaotically. Traditional quantum computers could predict its collapse with perfect accuracy and could do nothing to prevent it. The human hybrid interface engaged with the problem differently. It didn't seek perfect solutions but explored countless imperfect ones, learning and adapting with each attempt. Within minutes, it found possibilities that pure quantum computing had missed. Efficiency isn't everything, Sarah continued. Human minds evolved to find patterns in chaos, to make intuitive leaps, to learn from failure. When we combine that with quantum computing, you created something new, the Guardian finished, something that even the archive's creators did not foresee. The chamber erupted in overlapping discussions as the implications became clear. The Quantum Dominion's representative, now present as a diplomatic observer, shifted uncomfortably. But the established protocols, it began. Captain Walsh stepped forward. With respect, maybe it's time for those protocols to evolve. The galaxy is changing. The old ways of hoarding knowledge, of believing that advancement only moves in one direction, they're not working anymore. From her position at the podium, Sarah watched the assembled species debate. Some were excited by the possibilities, others frightened by the implications. All of them were being forced to reconsider what they thought they knew about progress. The archive was never meant to be a museum. She addressed the chamber. Its creators left it as a seed, waiting for someone who could help knowledge grow in new directions. They understood something that humanity learned long ago. True innovation doesn't come from perfect solutions. It comes from the messy, complicated process of trying, failing, and learning. The Guardian's form expanded, filling the chamber with patterns that somehow combined mathematical precision with organic chaos. When I first encountered humans, I categorized them as primitive based on their technological level. I was wrong. Their very limitations proved to be advantages. They showed us that there are many paths to understanding, and that sometimes the longest-held beliefs need to be challenged. Around the chamber, holographic displays showed the results of 3 months of human innovation. Quantum computers learning to work with intuition rather than just logic. Defense systems that were stronger because they embraced uncertainty. New ways of processing information that combined the best of both organic and quantum approaches. We're not here to replace quantum technology, Sarah concluded. We're here to help it grow. Humanity is ready to share everything we've learned, to work with any species willing to explore new possibilities. All we ask is that you keep an open mind about what advanced really means. The crystalline ambassador chimed thoughtfully. Perhaps we have been too rigid in our thinking. The patterns you have shown us, they possess a beauty we had forgotten to see in our pursuit of perfection. One by one, the assembled species began to signal their agreement. Even the Quantum Dominion's representative, after long consideration, gave a gesture of acceptance. The Guardian turned to Sarah, its form suggesting both satisfaction and curiosity. You have done more than defend the archive. You have awakened it to new possibilities. The question now is, what will humanity do with this influence? Sarah looked at her team, at Captain Walsh's steady confidence, Marcus's boundless curiosity, Dr. Tanaka's careful wisdom. She thought of Earth, of humanity's long journey from cave paintings to quantum computing, of all the mistakes and breakthroughs that had brought them here. We'll do what humans have always done, she replied. We'll learn, we'll teach, we'll find new problems to solve, and new ways to solve them. And most importantly, we'll remember that the greatest discoveries often come from the most unexpected places. The Guardian's form shifted into something new, a pattern that was neither purely quantum nor purely organic, but a harmony of both. Then let this mark the beginning of a new age in the galaxy's history, not an age of perfect knowledge, but of endless discovery. As the assembly chamber filled with the quantum signatures of 24 species beginning to explore new possibilities, Sarah felt a deep satisfaction. Humanity had come to the archive seeking knowledge, but they had found something far more valuable. The chance to show the galaxy that true advancement wasn't about reaching perfection. It was about never stopping the search for better ways forward. The Guardian's final words seemed to resonate through the quantum fabric of space itself. The greatest innovation in the history of the archive was not a technology or a discovery. It was learning that sometimes the most primitive question, what if we tried something different, can lead to the most advanced solutions. And in that moment, as representatives of Earth's primitive species began sharing their ideas with the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, the true power of human innovation was clear. They hadn't needed to become like the quantum-capable species to change the galaxy. They had only needed to be themselves.